So my grandmother offered to put me in preschool. The cover was that it was a preschool, but in reality, it was a coven where they were training children in satanic rituals and in all things satanic and how to be a Satanist, literally.
No. This is Rachel Hamm. She ran for Secretary of State in California in, I think, 2022 or maybe 2020. I don't remember now. Anyways, she is a Trumpist extremist to the highest degree, and she's obviously an evangelical nutterbutter who has some absolutely unhinged beliefs about society. Now, the reason I'm talking about her right now is because she went on Roger Stone's program recently to talk about her mission or her goal to be Trump's press secretary. I wouldn't count her out completely because, Trump loves to include QAnon nutterbutters, which, by the by, she most definitely is a QAnon nutterbutter. He loves to include QAnon nutterbutters in his goings-on, his administration, his dealings in general. Let's talk about who she is, what beliefs she holds, and why it's so bizarre and disturbing that she's trying to get in good with Trump right now. This is a video of her with Johnny Enlow, another QAnoner and a Trump pastor. Dude's kind of the linchpin between QAnon and Christianity. He's a Trump and QAnon pastor. She went on this TV show with him to talk about her beliefs and why she was running. Check this out. Mid-March 2022.
What was the reason behind deciding to run for this office? I mean, you've got a lot of things.
First of all, I'm a prophetic dreamer, so I had spent a lot of 2019 and 20.
She's a prophetic dreamer. She believes that God sends her dreams through, or sends her prophecy through dreams. Really. It gets even weirder. Just wait.
Having a lot of political dreams that I was in office. And because our youngest son Ezekiel is a seer, I went and got him. And I said,
he's a seer. That's another type of prophet, a seer. He sees things. She's about to describe a situation that will perfectly encapsulate what a seer is. They are so weird, dude.
Went and got him. And I said, hey, can you look around and see what you're seeing? Because I get a kick out of hearing him describe, what he sees. And so I said,
you mean make things up? Pretend to see angels and stuff. Okay. I can see how that would be funny. Go on.
let me know if you see anything. And so he looked in my bedroom and my bathroom and he said, there's nothing there. And then he goes into the closet, which is where I had been when I was praying.
Okay. Why were you in the closet when you were praying? That is a weird place to pray. When I was a Jehovah's Witness, I would just pray wherever. I would pray in bed. I would pray at my desk. I would pray in my bedroom. I mean, I didn't crawl into a closet to do that. Kind of a weird thing to do, but okay. It gets weirder.
Goes into the closet, which is where I had been when I was praying. And he said, whoa. And his eyes got like big as saucers. And he kind of like started backing away and they started bending down. And he said, you've got a really big guy in your closet. And his power is pushing me to the ground. And he'd never had that reaction ever.
Wow.
To an angel.
Whoa. You hear the guy in the background? Whoa.
And so I'm like, he's for us, not against us, right? Because I was sure, it's a different response. And he's like, he's full of light. He's so full of light. I can't even see his face. And then he said, and he has a scroll in his hand. And so I was like, then he came with a message. Like, what is the message? And the message was a commissioning. So
the message was a commissioning. So what she's saying is this angel or whatever in her closet that her son saw through his prophetic gift is commissioning her to run for Secretary of State or whatever. Okay.
So at the very end, I asked him what his name was because I thought, what angel is this, And he said, Emmanuel. That wasn't an angel. That wasn't an angel.
Listen to Johnny Enlow laughing at this. This is like embarrassing, really. This is painful. It's so embarrassing. And he's laughing. Emmanuel, by the way, is a name that was given to Jesus or whatever. It's a name that people believe that Jesus went by at one point. His real name was Yeshua in the Bible because J's didn't exist until the 1400s. Just like God's name is Yahweh in the Bible, not Jehovah. Again, J's didn't exist until the 1400s, but okay.
That wasn't an angel. That was Jesus himself. And so that's why I'm running for Secretary of State. So it's kind of a...
Dude, it's so painful. Does she believe the things that she's saying? Is this story made up, or did her son pretend to see Jesus? That's my real question. Who's making it up? One of them is. Is it her son, or is it her?
Of a unconventional answer that I honestly get mocked for, but by the other side of
course, yeah.
of this war.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. That makes sense that you'd be mocked for that. That's ridiculous. So let's talk about what she had to say recently on Roger Stone's program. Check this out, mid-April 2023.
You have talked to me about pulling up stakes, coming to Florida, putting your own political ambitions aside, because you and I agree that the election of Donald Trump in 2024 may be the last best hope for freedom and the...
Dude, what kind of hat is this guy wearing right now? By the by, Roger Stone has a show on Lindell TV, on Mike Lindell's TV network or whatever. God, it's absurd on every level. Everything about this is just absurd.
The last best hope for freedom and the survival of this nation.
So if Trump doesn't win the 2024 election, that it's over for the world and for the country specifically. He says the last best hope for the nation, right? I don't think Roger Stone's a true believer. I don't buy it. I've followed the guy's history for a long, long time. He's been involved in politics for like decades and decades. You know, he has a tattoo of Nixon on his back. Richard Nixon famously did the whole Watergate scandal. Back in the day, Roger Stone here on the left actually worked for Richard Nixon. He was on Nixon's campaign, and he would famously do things like donate to his political opponent. I mean, Stone's never run for office, but he'd work for a campaign and he'd donate to their opponent in the name of, the American Socialists organization, and he would get a receipt that said American Socialists on it or whatever, and he would send that to the news. It would leak to like CNN or whatever that his political opponent was taking donations from socialists. That's the kind of thing that Roger Stone did when he started out. Dirty tricks like that. He also was involved in Watergate, to my understanding. He was on the Nixon campaign when Watergate took place.
This nation. Tell me what your current thinking is.
Yes, I absolutely think that right now it's an all hands on deck situation to save the country. And the best way that we can do that is by supporting Donald Trump, because I can tell you that it is very clear to me that the God in heaven, the God and creator of heaven and earth has anointed Donald Trump to be president. Period.
Okay, that means that they believe him to be the Messiah. The language that they're using, like the word anointed, has different meanings in different denominations. Like Jehovah's Witnesses have a specific idea of what it means to be anointed, but in their religious and political ideology, anointed means you're a Messiah. She believes Trump to be the Messiah.
If you are anointed by Yahweh for a specific plan and purpose, you are a Messiah. Yeshua was the Messiah of mankind, but Donald Trump is the Messiah of America.
Like I said, anointed means something different to different denominations, but in their denomination, Shane Vaughn, who we just listened to, and Rachel Hamm, and others in this weird little sect of Christianity, Trump is the Messiah. He's the Messiah.
That it is very clear to me that the God in heaven, the God and creator of heaven and earth has anointed Donald Trump to be president. Period. Now, because of that, because I feel so strong about that, I believe that it is my obligation to do everything I can do to support him in order to support the country, in order to support God's agenda. And I know that's an extreme thing. I don't really care that that's an extreme thing. It's very true.
Well, I mean, at least she's kind of got a little bit of self-awareness, right? She's an extremist. She seems to be accepting that.
Really care that that's an extreme thing. It's very true to what I believe. And so at this point, what I have done is, after running for Secretary of State, I through a lot of prayer and personal assessment with my family.
In the closet, right? She was sitting in the closet praying.
We really explored what is the most effective thing I could do right now to help save the country. And I concluded that it was supporting the president in quite honestly, any role that would be most effective for him in the country. I think that media, I think that being press secretary is an excellent role for me. I'm very strong. I would really love to have a chance to meet with some of those reporters in the press room and, kind of like nail their heads to the wall. I think that'd be really fun.
I shouldn't be this charitable, but I assume that she means figuratively.
I think that'd be really fun in support of the president.
She believes that Trump is the Messiah and is prepared to sacrifice everything, including her own life, if that's what it took, seemingly, to support him in his endeavors, because God has anointed him. That is unhinged. That is straight up unhinged. Like I said, she ran for Secretary of State. Yeah, Secretary of State in California a little while back. So we've got lots and lots of clips of her saying absolutely off-the-wall stuff. She is a Christian nationalist extremist. She's a crusader, what you'd call a crusader. Mid-April 2023, same interview. Listen to what she had to say about religious people and society.
And one of the things I had mentioned to you last night was that I had been concerned about something I was observing in culture, which was like the collective intelligence kind of lowering.
I hear that. Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally with you on that one. I don't normally think that, but sitting here listening to her, she's bringing me over to her side right now.
Like, it seemed like everywhere I went, people were not very intelligent and not able to cope with what would seemingly be basic things. An example is, I gave someone money at a cash register, and she put the money in the cash register and closed it. Well, I was due change, and so I said I had change coming to me. She goes, "Oh yeah, I know, but I don't know how to make change, and the person who does that is on break right now." And just kind of.
Wow. Okay, fascinating. Well, first of all, I don't believe a single story out of her mouth. I don't believe anything she says. As far as I'm concerned, she proved herself to be a liar when she told the story about praying in the closet and her son walking in and seeing Jesus or something like that. Like I said, I don't know who lied there, but one of them did at the very least. I don't believe a single word out of her mouth, and in addition to that, it makes complete sense that, like, even if this story were true, that somebody wouldn't be able to get change. It's not that people are incapable of making change. They wouldn't hire somebody if they didn't know how to make change. Okay, people can count. They learn these things in second grade. But I wouldn't be surprised to find that this person, didn't have access to a register that was capable of making change. Like, sometimes they have, $300 bills and their register is out of ones or, out of nickels or something like that, and they need someone to go back to the safe and trade out, some of the bigger bills for smaller bills. I used to have to deal with that all the time at Burger King when I worked there. I was not allowed access to the safe because I was not a manager. I was just a cashier. So naturally, I have to have a manager there. And if there's not a manager nearby, if they're on break or something, I'm out of luck. I mean, that's the most charitable possible situation I can imagine in which she was telling the truth. And that doesn't add up to somebody being unintelligent. People can learn how to count. Even monkeys can learn how to count. Literally anybody, practically, can learn how to count. That's not the problem. And if this really did happen, somebody just doesn't know how to count, it reflects on society still. Society should be providing opportunities for people to learn these things. They should be sending them to school, to kindergarten. K through 12th grade should be teaching people how to count. If they're incapable of counting and making change like that because they're not smart enough, it's because of the policies that she pushes, not because they're just not smart enough. Okay, she's got a prescription for this, though. She knows exactly how to resolve this problem of people being low IQ, I guess, as she puts it.
How to make change, and the person who does that is on break right now. And she kind of blinked at me, and I thought, are you serious? And she was. So when you have a whole generation or a couple of generations that have no reverence for God whatsoever, you're going to have stupidity.
Right. It's that we don't have enough God. People are dumb because we don't have enough Jesus. Right, okay. Where is her head? It's in La La Land. It gets even worse than that. Okay, those are the most recent clips. I have more for you. I played this in my intro, but I want to play the whole thing because it gets wacky, dude. Mid-March 2022. Again, this is like her lead up to running for Secretary of State of California. By the way, Secretary of State of California would have been in control of the voting systems and tallying them up and everything to do with voting. Secretary of State handles pretty much. We should be thankful that she did not get the job. I don't think she was even close, but look, she didn't win. But people that share her backwards belief systems win all the time. Paul Gosar is currently in Congress, basically uncontested, and he shares the exact beliefs as her. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, I mean, they're all over the place. They are exactly like Rachel Hamm in pretty much every way, theologically and politically. So maybe she lost, maybe she wasn't even close, but others are. Okay, let's see. So 2022 California Secretary of State election, she got 822,000 votes. 822,000. Well, 823,000 basically. 12% of the vote. 12% is pretty low, but almost 1 million votes, dude. 1 million people saw what she had to say and said, yeah, I'll have some of that. That is unhinged. Seriously. It eventually went on to be a race against Robert Bernowski and Shirley Weber. Shirley Weber, the Democrat, won with 59%, 4 million votes. She got 1 million almost. The eventual winner got 4 million. That's crazy. So listen to her description of growing up as an evangelical nutter butter and being subjected to satanic ritual abuse, supposedly.
Satan also has a plan for your life. And that's something that I think is sometimes eye-opening to people. Like, they don't realize how much there's a battle over your life and over your destiny, and how we have to war to sometimes get ourselves into that promised land. And for me, the war started really young. When I was in preschool, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so I was normally home with her, but then she had to have surgery on her neck. And
so after all of the lies that I have heard from this woman, I'm starting to wonder anything out of her mouth is true. Did her mom even have surgery on her neck? I don't know. I'm doubting basically everything at this point.
It was going to be quite the recovery process and going to be just a long journey. So my grandmother offered to put me in preschool since it would be hard for my mom to recover and also take care of me. So she took her up on that. And the preschool was a coven that was run by witches. And
a coven, you say? Okay, go on.
And really, it was, the cover was that it was a preschool, but in reality, it was a coven where they were training children in satanic rituals and in all things satanic. And
completely made up, obviously. Do I even need to say it? This is fabricated garbage from the ground up. This is not happening. There's this thing called the Satanic Panic. It was an era in the 1980s, kind of stretched into the 90s. And honestly, the Satanic Panic never fully went away, but it was an era in the 80s and 90s. It started then, roughly, where Christians, moral crusaders, believed that there were Satanists around every corner, trying to indoctrinate children into their satanic practices and blah, 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 blah. Sound familiar? I mean, today we have people talking about the left and how they're trying to indoctrinate children into this thing or that thing or whatever. Satanists trying to indoctrinate children into their ways. And there were something, I forget, like 11,000 reports or something over the course of like 10 years of satanic ritual abuse of nurseries and preschools and daycares, all supposedly practicing Satanist rituals on children. And not one of these reports was verified. Of course. It was all made up all along. And here we have an example of somebody in 2022, I think is when this came out. Yeah, because she's running in 2022. In 2022, claiming that Satanists were out trying to convert her to Satanism or whatever. The whole satanic panic thing started because a woman named Michelle, I forget her last name now, was seeing a therapist, and this therapist helped extract, quote unquote, repressed memories. It turns out they were false memories. This is why in the psychology community, you never try to unrepress repressed memories, because there's a 50-50 shot that they're completely fake. The person can even believe to the bottom of their heart that they're 100% real, and they're mistaken. That's how false memories work. My mom had experiences with false memories when I was little. So she had these false memories extracted from her by this therapist, who eventually went on to marry her. Big no-no, by the way, in the psychology ethics community. And he wrote a book about it called Michelle Remembers, about how she was subjected to satanic rituals, and they did all of this terrible stuff to her. They even came up with names for all this stuff. Satanic ritual abuse. It was all fake, all along. Every last bit of it. And that is what Rachel Hamm is describing right now. She's just regurgitating the same garbage that came out of Michelle Remembers, the book that sparked the satanic panic.
Rituals and in all things satanic, and how to be a Satanist.
No, there are no Satanists out there doing this. It's fabricated.
Literally. It was day one. It was immediate. And
no, it wasn't.
I then, just begged to not go back. But I didn't say what was happening there, though, because they made you feel like you were complicit. So you would never tell because you think you're equally guilty.
See, this right here is what happens when narcissists see psychologists. They pick up psychology language and use it to their benefit. There really are situations in which manipulative people or abusive people will make you do something bad so that you are complicit in the wrongdoing and implicated in the event you're, forced to explain what happened to cops or to CPS or whatever. They will make you implicate yourself. What she's describing really does happen, but not with Satanists. This is completely made up, and it's honestly disgusting that she would say such a thing, that she would manipulate psychology, language, and situations to her benefit, to make people believe that she was abused when she was not.
So just briefly, what kind of things were they having you do things like with the other kids, or were they trying to have them do that to you?
All of the above. And then they literally teach you how to cast a spell. We had to make covenants, which I have undone all of that now,
Completely made up, all of it. And it's truly deeply disgusting that she wanted to convince people of this. 1 million votes in California, aiming for Trump's press secretary position, okay? Just disturbing on every level.
One thing that's interesting is I had been told in the preschool that my firstborn would belong to Satan. And I did not have conscious memory of that on an ongoing basis until later. I remembered that at one point.
And how does she know that's not a false memory? Seriously, everything out of this woman's mouth is a lie. She can't be trusted to tell the truth about anything at this point, in my opinion. And she's this close to having a real position of authority in government. If God anointed Trump, why do we need to do anything? Mark Smith. Fair point. Why are we in the equation at all? That's actually a really fascinating thing you mentioned, because there's a guy, Johnny Enlow. This is Johnny Enlow. We talked about him a minute ago in the previous clip in this video, but this is him explaining that he received divine prophecy from God about Donald Trump. This goes all the way back to 2019. This is early December 2019, right before the 2020 election. He's describing a prophecy he received from God about Donald Trump leading up to the 2020 election.
And so I was like, Lord, as I'm saying that, the first thing he said is, he is going to save you from things you don't know you need to be saved from yet. And then the Lord progressively began to speak regarding that. And he said, this time in the presidency, is going to be a hinge of the ages.
You notice how he's picking up on like biblical language. You can kind of determine what type of or what Bible translation he's using based on how he phrases things, the grammar he uses. And then the Lord began to speak regarding that, and he said, that's not something you say in common English, right? He's just trying to mimic the Bible. So what was it God told him about Trump?
Is going to be a hinge of the ages and be known as before Trump and after Trump because of the way I'm going to use him. I'm using him as a Trump card, but I'm the Trump card player.
God, this is painful, dude. This is so cringy, it's painful.
Your nation will be known as before Trump and after Trump. And he said, the nations will be known as before Trump, after Trump. And the Lord, it was like, he said, I'm really not interested in your all's vote this time. I'm doing it. I usually give you all that option. This time I'm not. This is a rescue operation from heaven. This is a moment of the ages.
So here's why this is fascinating to me. He's saying it's going to be a hinge of the ages instead of counting our calendar as like BC and AD, which is before Christ, and Anno Domini, which means year of our Lord. We're going to switch to BT and AT, before Trump and after Trump. We're moving from a Jesus-based system to a Trump-based system. That should tell you all you need to know about how this guy and everybody in this movement views Donald Trump. They view him as a messiah. John Yenlow, Rachel Hamm, and Shane Vaughn, the guy I showed earlier talking about how Trump is the messiah of America. They view him as a messiah. I don't know how it gets any clearer. So they're going to begin basing their calendars off of before Trump and after Trump, or he believed that America would. Of course, that never happened. But, you know, that little bit that he said there in the middle, that relates to Mark Smith's comment there. So again, this is before the 2020 election. This is 2019, early December. And John Yenlow had the right idea. If God anointed Trump, why do we need to do anything, like Mark Smith said? Absolutely on point. You're completely correct. Why indeed? Even they realized how absolutely absurd it was to believe that we needed to do anything.
Not interested in your all's vote this time. I'm doing it.
What happened? What happened? They can sit here and claim that it was stolen all they want. They can claim Biden reversed prophecy all they want. It seems clear as day to me that none of these people can be trusted to tell the truth about anything at this point. Nothing.